A violent incident occurred in Okigwe and Onuimo, local government areas of Imo State, involving Biafra Liberation Army and troops from the Nigerian army. Goods, vehicles and trucks worth millions of naira were set on fire. In another news update, some unknown gunmen who claim to be enforcing sit-at-home order imposed in the southeast burnt local goods and vehicles of residents who defy the sit-at-home order. However, the attacks were reportedly linked to a sit-at-home order issued by a faction of the Biafra movement, which many locals were unaware of, leading to civilian activity that triggered the aggression. The attackers, described by some as unknown gunmen, but widely believed to be affiliated with Biafra agitators, targeted local Igbo-owned businesses, particularly trucks used for commercial transport and sand delivery. Eyewitnesses and commentators condemned the violence as terrorism, stressing that it targeted innocent Igbo people trying to survive the economic hardship in Nigeria. Critics accused the agitators of hypocrisy, noting that while they enforce sit-at-home orders violently in the southeast, their leaders and supporters abroad live in comfort without consequences. Several burned vehicles were shown in videos, causing emotional reactions online, with many asking how destroying Igbo property helps achieve Biafra's liberation goals. Commentators expressed frustration that while powerful politicians like President Bola Tinubu visit the southeast unchallenged, local businesses and poor civilians bear the brunt of the agitation. Some speakers lashed out at the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodimma, for allegedly failing to secure the region, accusing him of enjoying state resources while ignoring people's suffering. Residents called on the governor to resign or delegate security to local authorities, citing worsening insecurity and unchecked destruction of lives and property. Their overall message was a strong condemnation of the destruction, labeling it as counterproductive, cruel, and a betrayal of the very people Biafra agitators claim to be fighting for. It began as just another regular day for the residents of Okigwe and Onuimo, two local government areas nestled in the eastern part of Imo State, Nigeria. Traders, transport workers, sand suppliers, and everyday citizens had gone out to make a living, unaware that the day would end with fire, destruction, and fear that would spread across the region. In a region already riddled with tension due to political unrest and long-standing agitation for an independent Biafra, what unfolded was nothing short of heartbreaking and, for many, completely avoidable. Eyewitness accounts and video evidence from the area showed a terrifying scene. Vehicles in flames, trucks loaded with sand turned to ashes, and smoke rising from what once were productive business tools and livelihoods. Goods worth millions of naira were destroyed in a matter of minutes, and the people responsible for this devastation were not foreign invaders or faceless terrorists from a distant land. The attackers were described by some as unknown gunmen, but among the people there was little doubt. They were believed to be connected to the Biafra Liberation Army, or at least a faction of the Biafran agitation movement enforcing a sit-at-home order. This incident, which occurred on May 9, 2025, did not happen in a vacuum. It followed a court appearance by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the embattled leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, who had long been at the center of the push for Biafran independence. Following this court appearance, a faction within the movement announced a sit-at-home order to show solidarity with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and to draw attention to the Biafran cause. But the problem was that many locals never got the message. There was no widespread public awareness campaign, no community mobilization, and no clear communication from this faction to the people on the ground. So, while the agitators expected the streets to be empty in solidarity with their cause, What they saw instead were businesses operating, transport vehicles on the road, and civilians going about their day as usual. This misunderstanding, or perhaps this deliberate lack of communication, became the spark that led to the fire, literally and figuratively. The YouTube broadcast by Critics News painted an emotional and disturbing picture. The broadcaster began by expressing sadness and frustration over the incident, calling it both unacceptable and condemnable. He described how trucks and tippers, some of which had been bought through collective community support or individual struggle, were set ablaze. These were not just machines. They were investments, dreams, and survival tools for families already battling Nigeria's severe economic hardship. One part of the video transcript stood out powerfully. The broadcaster lamented the hypocrisy of some of the agitators. He mentioned that people like Sonia Akbar Arawa, a pro-Biafra voice from the Calabar region, were enforcing sit-at-home orders in Imo State, but were not applying the same pressure in their own communities in the south of Nigeria. He questioned why the burden of agitation always fell on the Igbo people in Imo, Abia, Anambra, and Ebonyi states, while others shouted from the sidelines. There was pain in his voice as he asked, "Why are Igbo people attacking their fellow Igbo people and destroying their only means of survival?" He highlighted that nobody in Rivers State, Cross River State, or Akwa Ibom State was forced to obey any sit-at-home order. Yet it was the Igbo land that was burning. And even worse, many of those who claimed to be fighting for Biafran freedom were living abroad in places like Finland, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States, enjoying safety, comfort, and opportunity far removed from the violence they command or inspire back home. The truck drivers and sand suppliers whose vehicles were torched were all Igbo people. These were men who woke up each day trying to make a living in the face of rising fuel prices, insecurity, and a collapsing economy. Their only crime, according to the attackers, was that they went out to work instead of sitting at home in obedience to an unannounced or poorly communicated directive. And for that, their lives and livelihoods were shattered. Videos circulated online showing the scale of the destruction. Burnt-out truck shells littered the roads. Local residents gathered around in disbelief, mourning the loss. Social media was awash with condemnation, though not everyone had the courage to speak out openly. Some feared backlash from Biafran agitators who see any form of criticism as betrayal or sabotage. The broadcaster noted that even when people like him speak up against the violence, they are immediately accused of being sellouts or enemies of the movement. He mentioned how threats are often sent to his inbox, warning him to shut up or face consequences, yet he remained firm in his conviction. This kind of violence is terrorism, plain and simple. And terrorism against your own people, he said, is not only counterproductive but morally bankrupt. One powerful emotional thread that ran through his message was the frustration that the destruction was being celebrated online by some people. In his words, EO people are celebrating it. He asked what kind of freedom movement rejoices in the suffering of its own people. What kind of liberation war burns down the businesses of the very community it claims to fight for? These questions pierced deeply, not just as political points but as moral ones. He reminded viewers that a tipper truck can cost millions of naira. These were not luxury toys. They were business assets used to feed families, pay school fees, and survive. Some had been purchased through community fundraising efforts. Others were the result of years of hard work and sacrifice. Now reduced to blackened metal carcasses, they represented not just financial loss, but psychological trauma. He went further to ask, is this how you build a nation? For him, and for many other commentators, the answer was clearly no. Rather than gaining sympathy for the Biafran cause, these actions were driving a wedge between the agitators and the very people they claimed to represent. Instead of building unity, the movement was breeding resentment, fear, and disillusionment. And this disillusionment was not just emotional, it was strategic. He explained that if the Biafra independence struggle had once enjoyed 80% support among the people, recent actions like these had drastically reduced that support. People who once believed in the cause were now stepping back, questioning its methods, its leadership, and even its sincerity. The Nigerian army, for its part, did not remain idle. Reports confirmed that troops clashed with the Biafra Liberation Army in a fierce gun battle in the same region. This confrontation added another layer of chaos to an already burning situation. Security forces were deployed in large numbers, and gunshots rang through parts of Okigwe and Onwimo. Some residents fled, others stayed indoors, too afraid to move. It was unclear how many casualties occurred during the clash, but the psychological damage to the community was undeniable. Then there was the political dimension. Critics turned their anger toward the Imo State Governor Hope Uzodimma, accusing him of abandoning his duty to secure lives and property. Many felt that he was too preoccupied with politics and personal power to address the daily fears and sufferings of his people. They called for his resignation, or at the very least, the delegation of security responsibilities to local vigilantes and community leaders who understood the terrain better. Some even questioned why powerful figures like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu could visit the southeast without facing any such violent enforcement of sit-at-home orders, while poor traders and struggling drivers bore the brunt of it. The contrast was painful. It painted a picture of selective justice and misplaced anger, where those truly responsible for the marginalization of the southeast were left untouched, and instead ordinary Igbo citizens were targeted. As the broadcaster continued his emotional message, he reflected on the bigger picture. He urged the agitators to rethink their approach, to stop attacking their own people, and to consider what kind of legacy they were creating. Were they building a future of unity and self-determination, or were they tearing apart the very fabric of their own society? He pointed out that if the real enemy was the Nigerian federal government, then the resistance should be directed at that level. Burning sand trucks and destroying small businesses only serve to deepen the suffering of an already struggling community. He challenged the agitators to take their protests to places of real power, like the Aso Rock presidential villa in Abuja, if they truly wanted to make a statement. But of course, few dared to do that. Instead, the violence remained localized, directed at the vulnerable and powerless. And this is where the story begins to evolve from a simple report of violence into a broader reflection of what is happening in the southeast region of Nigeria. It is a region caught between two forces, an indifferent federal government and an increasingly aggressive and disorganized secessionist movement. And in the middle are the people, ordinary Igbo men and women, who just want peace, progress, and the chance to build a better life. In many ways, the Okigwe and Onwimo incident has become a symbol of a movement at a crossroads, a symbol of a people who are both resilient and exhausted, a symbol of a struggle that risks becoming a self-inflicted wound if not urgently redirected with wisdom, discipline, and love for the people it claims to serve. The question now is, what next? Will the Biafran agitators take responsibility for the damage and adjust their methods to win back public trust? Will they seek meaningful dialogue with the people, with other pro-Biafra factions, and even with the Nigerian state? Will they prioritize education, communication, and grassroots empowerment over violent enforcement of sit-at-home orders? Or will the Southeast continue to burn under the weight of conflicting ambitions and poor leadership, both from Abuja and from within? Only time will tell. But for now, the smoke still rises in Okigwe, and the ashes of broken dreams still lie in the streets of Onuimo. And the people wait, not just for justice, but for sanity. As the dust settled in the Okigwe and Onuimo local government areas of Imo State, following the brutal clash between the Biafra Liberation Army and the Nigerian army, a heavy silence fell over the affected communities. The echoes of gunfire still haunted the minds of residents, many of whom had either narrowly escaped death or watched helplessly as their only means of livelihood were reduced to ashes. It was no longer just a political struggle or a debate over self-determination. It had turned into a raw, bitter war with consequences that directly affected ordinary people's daily lives. On the morning of May 9, 2025, what was supposed to be an ordinary workday for hundreds of residents became a day of terror and loss. According to locals, the tension had been building since the previous day, May 8th, when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu appeared in court in Abuja. That court appearance, which had drawn mixed reactions from across the Southeast, had also reportedly triggered a reaction from a radical faction of the Biafra movement that claimed to support him. This group, which had issued a short-notice sit-at-home order, believed that the entire region should shut down in solidarity with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. However, the message did not reach everyone in time, and those who went out for business that Friday paid a terrible price. The roads in Okigwe were littered with the remnants of what had once been hard-earned investments. Trucks, many of them locally owned and used for commercial transport, had been set on fire by unknown gunmen. Some of these trucks were sand tippers used in the construction business. Others were delivery vehicles transporting food, goods, and building materials. Each vehicle represented years of labor, savings, and community trust. Their destruction was not just a loss for the owners, but a blow to the entire local economy. What made matters worse was the sheer randomness of the attack. The people whose trucks were burnt had nothing to do with any government action. They were not politicians. They were not soldiers. They were not representatives of the federal government. They were local traders, drivers, and small business owners trying to survive Nigeria's unforgiving economic reality. And yet, they were targeted with cruelty, their properties destroyed in a firestorm of political vengeance that many now see as senseless. One eyewitness, who narrowly escaped the scene, said the attackers moved quickly and deliberately. According to him, the gunmen appeared to have detailed knowledge of the local area. They blocked key roads, intercepted moving trucks, and ordered the drivers to step out before setting the vehicles ablaze. They did not hesitate. In fact, the witness said, they acted as if they had done this many times before. They shouted slogans about Biafra, made declarations against the Nigerian state, and even filmed some of their actions to post online. The sight of the burning vehicles sparked horror among onlookers. Many people were left speechless, some in tears. Videos began to circulate on social media, showing thick black smoke rising into the sky. Flames engulfed entire trucks, while others smoldered down to their metal frames. Residents who tried to speak out were quickly silenced, either by fear of reprisal or by threats that their properties would be next. The backlash was immediate. Within hours, condemnation poured in from all corners of the Southeast. People who had once quietly supported the idea of Biafra began to speak out against the methods being used by some of its supporters.
Look at Tipa. Do you know how much is the head of this mark now? Do you know how much? Do you know how much? Watch. Look at that one there. Look. Look at how many people.
No more now.
This is terrorism. This is terrorism. I'm telling you honestly. Look at tipper. Do you know how much tipper costs? Do you know the economic hardship that you are bringing to Igbo people? Look.
See them.
Look. And you don't need to like me. I know you people were told to report my platforms and bring them down because of condemnation of all this nonsense. Look at. Yes, I know a lot of people will not come out to condemn it. Look at somebody's car on a Thursday. Look. It's not even on a Monday. Where we tell people, I beg you, don't go out. Dodge.
Release the mask and the color. Oh. Release the mask and the color. No peace in Nigeria, usually country. Let Biafra go. No be some money to give us order. We take order from our Oga, our triple general. Then they give us order. No be some money. No be Simon and they give us order. So they take order from our triple G.
You got the keeper mad. Keeper Buaja. Look at. You got the keeper about how many? You go the honor. Just to count. This is not good. Rather they will continue. You think the government cares about us? They don't care about us. They don't really care about us. And you are buying our own people. It's unacceptable. Yeah, they talk my own the way when they take me. I know say people no go like me. That's why people don't like me anymore, because I'm talking against criminality. I'm condemning criminality. This is my own brothers. Doing business. Look at tippers. What millions of naira 9% come out born. Now ask yourself, the person when born this tipper, does he have tipper? No. Can he buy them? No, he can't afford. The same way I can't afford them. But look at how can I destroy this is outright wickedness. I know say people go dey vex for me, but I can't hold it anymore. I have to tell you the truth. Now watch here. Look at more videos.
Boy, motole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, plus they can number go be. Boy, le kwe moto ni le boy.
Ana kwa mara so wako na hapa ni shop.
Shapo moto na dana kana. Shapo moto na dana hapo. Lebe nyanya.
See my motto. Since last night we dey here, since around 2, I will dey here. All this one now. Where they see so. We dey Okigwe since last night. Na kill this. They say they come attack them for night. Yesterday night, whether the time wey rain dey fall, boys come attack this army checkpoint for Okigwe. So they never open road up till now. Now kill na just do this. Go back. You go check the other side of the road. So one way na motor na dey for up that side. So we don't know the one who cause west side. They say they keep people there, and at the same time they burn some motor. So Army never open road up till now. If not by now, I supposed to go reach depot.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.